get started here tonight. And to recap a little bit, last month I talked about the Hermes Light 2. And this is about my build experience. I'm not going to go into detail about how it works. There are plenty of information, YouTube videos and presentations online that you could take a look at. They do a much better job than I could, but I can share my build experience. And with around the Hermes Light 2, I followed a core group that were designing and developing a streamlined SDR radio that in the range of $300, $350. This group, they built about 1,000 radios in the meantime, so it expanded to quite a few people joining and following along, participating. It was interesting to follow the development. The Hermes Light, the original version, and then I talked a little bit about last month when I decided to jump in. When you had an enclosure available, and when it's stable software or the application was running stable, I decided to join that group. So in case you hadn't had a chance to take a close look at it, I'll unplug it and I'll pass it around. Now, the radio, I want to point out one thing first, is that you got the main SDR radio here, you've got the bandpass filters here, and this jumper or the bridge here makes the connections between the two. And then you've got another amateur designed this interface for the RARC-50 amplifiers. A lot of the QRP, folks in the QRP community will sometimes pick up a RARC-50, and the RARC-50 can take some of the binary code and change bands automatically. Also, this has a companion board, and this was another group, another two fellows that wanted to expand the basic Hermes Light. The basic Hermes Light didn't have a Kia, and it didn't have audio, and so they wanted to bring that on, and so they were able to marry that, and they also married it into the gateware. The gateware, the term I'm more familiar with is firmware, but since this is a field programmable gate array, and you're loading the application to the field programmable gate array, I think it's called, that's why they refer to it as gateware. So I'll pass this around, you take a look at it. Another thing I wanted to mention about, deciding about what project or when to jump into a project, what you're looking for is support. How many people are active around that project? And this is let me back up. So I'm on the HermesLight.com. Now in our newsletter, under the topic of the program tonight, I attached a document. There's all the links so everything that I went to, or every site that you need to go to pick up something is listed in the newsletter. And this is the Hermes Light 2 site. And if you go to the wiki for community documentation, go over here to software, and then you can see the applications that are applicable to the Hermes Light 2. Quisk, Spark SDR. Quisk and Spark are important for setting up the bias. You have routines in both of these programs to go and set up the bias for the amplifier. SDR console, Power SDR is the Flex 5000 generation software that has been adapted to the Anon radios. So that's suitable for you can use that also for the Hermes Light 2. And Thetis is the newest software that is available for the Anon radios, the 7000 DLE. Those radios can run Thetis, and that's what I was running earlier today. That's one I'm more familiar with, and so that's my preference. And you also have Lin HP SDR. I don't know too much about that one. And then there's Pi SDR, and that's what's running here. So you saw tonight, I started up tonight running with Thetis, but I could have easily started up and run with the Pi SDR. And that's what the focus tonight is, the controller. So it's a different step now. When I was following along with the Hermes Light, that's a group that developed that board and developed the applications, and you were buying from a third-party manufacturer in China, Maker Fabs, and you can see, there's a, we go back to, and you can go to group buy, and they're listed here, makerfabs.com. It's in China.
It's interesting, yours is in China, the one I was showing was from India. So
Okay.
I guess the Americans will start doing something after a while.
It's when we look into the details, it's amazing, what they're doing there. We didn't bring it up. But in building the high SDR controller, that's more equivalent to going to the ARRL handbook and picking up a project out of the handbook or QST project, where you have access to bill of materials and some details, some information about how to build that. And so I'm going to power this down, and I'll open this up so you can also take a look at this. Right now I've got it running Linux. It's the release is Buster. I don't know if it's still the latest or not, but that's what one of them that I was.
I think it is the latest.
Is it still? It's still current. Okay, good. So I'm going to take a couple of screws out now that I've powered it down, and I can slide it out, and I can pass it around so you can take a look at that build. And it's you'll see the Raspberry Pi 4, it's the 4 gig board, and this is 7-inch monitor is from the Pi Foundation. The case, we'll talk about the case and the printed circuit board here in a second. These are kind of standard parts. So here's the Raspberry Pi 4 attached, the monitor board, and then the supporting peripheral equipment for the interface through the GPIO on the Raspberry Pi 4. So I'll let you pass that around, take a look at that.
I would hold on to it, just don't just pass it.
You know what, I'll hold it in front of the camera too.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Turn it around.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Thank you.
Before I go there, there are two people mainly responsible for the, one person really responsible is John Milton, G0ORX, and he's in West Sussex, England. If you go to the Apache Labs site, you'll see he gets credit for some of the development around the Anon radios. And he's also, up till yesterday, the Apache Labs had this control. It wasn't the same package. They have another manufacturer building the enclosure, but it was the same Pi and same applications. You go to GitHub, you pull down his application files, and you load it on Pi, and you can run it just as if you bought it from Apache Labs. And a lot of that work done at Apache Labs builds on work done around the group that was working with the Tucson Area Packet Radio Association and the Atlas-based system with Mercury and Penelope and Penny Lane. So that's a lot of that was made available. Files were shared and shared their intellectual property and their expertise. So he gets a lot of credit. And then to help make it a little easier building it, there was another gentleman, Joseph Randall, K9BIB. He's in Kokomo, Indiana. He kind of he built one and wrote down his experience and notes about the actual build. And we'll go to his site.
How much of the board did you have to put together, if that made sense?
I started with the bare board.
Oh, okay.
You want to grab that and pass it around?
Yeah.
So that's where it started.
So you did the SDR place or the component of the SDR board?
No, the radio board, the Hermes Light 2, that's a contractor in China that populated, built it, and tested it.
So this, you had to populate this one?
Populated the controller board, right.
Okay. So you got good eyes and good hands.
You know, it was interesting. Did you see the article in QST about surface mount?
Yeah.
And he was using an oven, using a solder paste in the oven. What I'll do is I'll go to one pad, I'll put a little drop of solder on it, slide the component to it, go ahead and tack the component in it. Then I jump to the other side, make the solder, make the gullet you want to have from the pad around the end of the device, and then go to the other side and finish it off. So it's multiple steps to getting one tiny component on there. So it's I was aware of the oven criteria, the oven scenario, but if I did more building, but you know, I'm like most of you, I won't be able to see it that well much longer. And also being a steady hand, it's no fun when you get when it becomes a struggle. So, but back to Joseph Randall, K9B. I want to pull that up.
I was going to say, I'm 25 and I can't do it, so don't worry.
We just sit right in front there. Thank you. So if you go to this Apache's lab site, you won't see that model there anymore. And it's probably due to the Pi 4. It's the price, the controller sells for $5.99 from Apache Labs. And if you were buying Raspberry Pi 4s for $78, or maybe even less in quantity for a builder like Apache Labs, and then suddenly they're $200 because people were hoarding them, and I don't know what's going on, but they're still not plentiful. You have to wait in line, or you just won't have to pay up to get one. That just devastates any kind of margin profit. So here's Joseph Randall's site, and he's just he goes on about his experience in talking about rotary coders that you can select from. He's providing bill of materials. You can see he's got a date that he's a revision date, some 3D parts for concentric knobs. This could handle two receivers, although it doesn't have two antennas. You could have two receivers. And when I built it, I decided I would only go with one. I wasn't happy with the knobs I could get. If you went with concentric knobs, they get to be so tall. And so I decided to go with a low profile, just to have the one version. And also, if you're running two receivers and two waterfalls, 2 pan adapters with waterfalls. So